ComfyUI in 2025 is easier to use than ever. Whether you're a new user or a returning user, ComfyUI has made some tweaks for ease of use. There has been some amazing quality of life additions that makes this tool the easiest way to get started with creating AI art with just a few clicks. Also, ComfyUI now has a desktop application that can be installed like any other Windows app, and it comes with the ComfyUI Manager already installed. The tool will also create its own desktop shortcut, which is a small victory, but super helpful. And the most notable improvement is ComfyUI now has a browse template section, so you can get started with all the new popular AI art, image, or video generators like Stable Diffusion, Flux, Flux Snell, Flux Dev, and even Flux Krea and Qwen. And the best thing about these new templates is it will come with an auto downloader for all the required models and put them in the correct folder, so you no longer need to jump around to different sites and grab the models and figure out which folder it goes into. Of course, with the exception of custom or quantized models, GGUFs. Before we get started, please click the like button to support the channel as it helps my small channel grow, and all the links I mentioned will be in the description. Just a quick note, you probably noticed this video is insanely long, but this is more like a ComfyUI 101 for the new and returning users rather than just an installation tutorial. A lot of things have changed with Comfy and it's now much easier to use and beginner friendly, so I think it's time for a 101 to teach new users the ins and outs. The installation portion is only about like a minute or two long, but there is so much to talk about with new template system that automatically finds your models, generation times for newer models, and I'll bring up a few charts to show you how long you should be waiting for something to generate. I'll go over the prereqs and take a look at GPUs, which is your graphics card, which, spoiler alert, it should be Nvidia, and we'll go over how much VRAM you actually need. And if you don't have enough VRAM, how can you compensate for that? And then I'll use some of the models like Flux Dev, Krea, Qwen, and WAN 2.2, so you'll learn how to do all of that. By the end of this video, you'll be using Stable Diffusion 1.5, Flux Dev, Krea, Qwen, all the new models. Everything is easy to use now with ComfyUI. Near the very end of the video, I created some pictures so you can see what kind of images you can create using ComfyUI. If you want to check that out, you can just use the chapters to skip all the way there. I'll also go over some semantic or contextual editing, so that's like things like Flux Context to edit an image any way you want. I'll go over custom models and workflows and how to manually install those, and then I'll finally talk about quantization, what it is, why you need it, and who needs it, and how to look for it and install those models. I also added a section where you can learn about the different types of AI tools that are available, paid and free models, as well as some of the popular content creators for AI art, AI in general, and AI tools, so you can go check out their channels to become a guru. So yes, this video had to be long, and it's like 10 videos rolled into one. Just jump around and watch what you're most interested in, and then come back to the video later when you want to learn more. With that being said, let's move along, and if you want to skip around, go ahead and skip to the chapters that you want to learn about. And very important disclaimer before we get started, this is an installation mainly for Nvidia video cards. Other video cards may work, but they'll most likely utilize your CPU, which is extremely slow. Unfortunately, AMD has pretty much fallen off the cliff and has never been heard again when it comes to AI. There are installation instructions for AMD and Mac users on the ComfyUI GitHub site, but I've never done it myself, so I can't do a tutorial on those. Also, open source tools in general, not just ComfyUI, usually make their tools for Nvidia only and not AMD and Mac. Now there's a couple workarounds which is not as straightforward and not as fast either, and Nvidia video cards are simply the best when it comes to AI because of their CUDA ecosystem, which we'll talk a little bit about later. I'm sorry to break the news that way, but it's better if I rip the band-aid off now instead of having you watch the rest of the video, right? But for anyone that uses AMD and Mac, I would love to hear what your experience is on ComfyUI, which ComfyUI is probably the one open source tool that will have more compatibility with different cards than any other open source tool. So I'm curious to hear what your experience is. So let's start with the install, and then we'll look at all the awesome templates, which is a game changer for new users and a huge quality of life for existing users. But the first thing you need to do is the prereqs, and the first prereq is your video card, like I said earlier, but not just that it's an Nvidia, but you need a specific amount of VRAM to actually create AI art. Now the very minimum is 6, but there's going to be a limited amount of models that you can use at 6 gigabytes of VRAM. And yes, your GPU or video card's VRAM is the most important thing for AI. I made a little chart here with ChatGPT, and to be honest, it got the chart wrong a couple times, so I had to correct it. initially said that the 5090 had 32 gigabytes of VRAM and the 5080 had 20, which is incorrect. Those were rumors based on before it was released. So anyways, for AI, 8 gigabytes would be the absolute minimum. And you're going to struggle with that. You're going to have to use quantized models to generate anything. With the exception of Stable Diffusion 1.5 models, you'll be able to get through those very easily. Same with the 6 gigabytes. And there's also quantized models that will allow you to use a 6 gigabyte as well. But for most models, you'll be waiting a long time. Now, the most desirable cards will be the ones ending with 90, which are the 3090, the 4090, and the 5090. And those are all going to have 24 gigabytes of VRAM, which is the most on a commercial video card right now, at least for Nvidia. Anything ending with 80, aside from the GTX series, are 16 gigabytes of VRAM. And I actually have an RTX 4070. At first, I wanted to upgrade, but I thought about it, and most people are probably around this range, around the 12 gigabyte range. So I just kept it because aside from the $3,000 price tag, it's also kind of crappy to say, yeah, it works for me. I don't know why it's not working for you when I have a 5090 and I paid $3,000 for my video card. So I think most people fall about around this range with the 12 gigabytes. So I figured I have to get the models to work with 12. But yeah, it's pretty expensive for your free AI art because the 3090s are still $1,000 to $1,500. The 4090s, which are pretty nice, cost around $2,000 to $2.5 grand. And then these RTX 5090s are anywhere from $2.5 to $3,000 and upwards. Now let's go over the software prerequisite, which is installing Git. And Git stands for nothing. It just actually means Git, like go get it, and it's spelled GIT. Any version of ComfyUI that you install is going to require Git, as well as all open source tools. They all use Git. And to install Git, it's pretty much like any other Windows application. You'll go to the Git website and then you'll download the version appropriate for you. For me, I have Windows on a x64, so that's what I'm going to download. And just click next, 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 next until you get to the end, and then click finish, and then forget about it. The reason I say that is because Git's one of those tools that run in the background, and when you use ComfyUI desktop, it's basically going to run all the commands for you. But Git is an amazing tool, and it does all the work for you by installing tens to hundreds of tools in the background, so you don't need to go to hundreds of different websites and download a specific version of a tool necessary and find all the correct folders. It would be virtually impossible to install all these tools without Git, as there's so many combinations and ways you can mess up. And with Git, it just runs off the requirements.txt file or whatever is given to it to install the dependencies and requirements, and it just makes your life easier for all open source development. So definitely put Git on your computer. And then there is a desktop versus the portable version. So in the past, everyone's installed the portable version because that's all there was. The portable version, you can basically git clone or extract from a zip file onto your desktop or anywhere on your computer, and it'll be portable. It can go onto a USB, but it doesn't have the ComfyUI manager by default, so you'll have to actually git clone that into your ComfyUI folders. I believe that desktop will be the more stable version, especially in the long run. So we're going to install the desktop version, which already has the manager built in, which is a mandatory feature in my eyes, because it updates and fixes all the broken nodes. And when you get custom workflows, almost every single custom workflow will have broken nodes, so it's not optional. You need the manager. To install ComfyUI desktop, just go to comfyui.org/download or go to the GitHub repository for Comfy Anonymous ComfyUI. The link is in my video description, but this is the official ComfyUI site. And then press Control F and then type in desktop, and that'll bring you right to the link that you need for the desktop application. Click on it, and then you'll get to this link, which is the comfyui.org/download. That link will also be in my description. Go ahead and click on the download for Windows if you have Windows, and just wait for the download. Then you'll get the application installer right here. ComfyUI setup. It's a blue C icon with blue around it. That's also what the desktop shortcut's going to look like after you install that. So let's go ahead and install it. Click on this, double click. Once the installer opens up, you'll have the Welcome to ComfyUI, Get Started. Go ahead and click on Get Started. And you'll have two options here for selecting your GPU, which is basically one option for Nvidia. Then there's manual configuration. If you have anything other than Nvidia, you might have to enable CPU mode, or if you have like less than 6 gigabytes of VRAM, which is crazy, to try and like run these things with just less than 6. But go ahead and click on next after you choose Nvidia, and then now you choose your installation location. And one thing that it wants here is for you to install it on the C drive. Now over here, I tried to install it on the D drive and it gave me this warning. Please install ComfyUI on your system drive, your C drive. So it definitely doesn't like it. It also doesn't like spaces. So if you have a space here, definitely add an underscore. Once you're done choosing the installation location on your C drive, go ahead and click on next. And then you could migrate from your existing installation. Just go ahead and browse to it. And once you click next, you'll have a few options. You could bring over your user files, which are all your old workflows that you save, your models, your custom nodes, and I chose to bring over my user files and my models. Now, I didn't want to bring over my custom nodes because there's hundreds of custom nodes from all different types of users, so I want to start fresh, and custom nodes might break it, so I left them behind. But models are huge, so I definitely wanted to bring it over to not download 100 gigs of stuff again. So once you're done with the migration, which is optional, if you don't want to migrate, that's fine. Just go ahead and click on next. And then you'll have desktop app settings, which you have automatic updates and usage metrics, which is totally optional. Now for automatic updates, I definitely turn that on because you want the newest ComfyUI every single time. But if you leave this off, you can actually do it manually through the help menu. But once you choose your settings, go ahead and click on install, and then it'll just do its thing. It'll do its magic. And you can see here it's installing all the different dependencies from your requirements text, and there's a lot there. So you don't want to do this one by one. And Git is basically grabbing all this stuff for you and working with ComfyUI to make your life easy. Just real quickly, once you install ComfyUI, it will add this desktop shortcut here. So you can just click on this to start ComfyUI. Unlike the portable version where you have to go inside the folder and click on the run nvidia.bat file. And once the installation is done, it's going to automatically open up ComfyUI and add a shortcut to your desktop. And you can see here it has all the different templates up, so you can get started by clicking on one of these. And it's pretty cool because they got image, video, and even a section just for Flux. And once you click on these, it'll give you the workflow, and it'll also give you all the different models. It'll download it for you and just put it in the right place. It's pretty awesome and easy to use now. Once ComfyUI opens up, look for an update notification. I don't have one now since I just updated, but if you don't see it, you can always click on help here at the top left and then click on check for updates. And you can see here at the top right, it says no update found. So I'm all up to date. Next, you want to go into manager, and you can update all custom nodes here, or even more important, if you have any of these workflows that have red nodes, that means that the node's not working. You can actually go here and install custom nodes. Here's an example of something that has a bunch of missing nodes here that have to be installed. And this is more of one of those complex workflows that I got from a custom workflows website, which we'll go over in a second. You'll have to click on the manager here at the top right, and then you'll have to click on install missing nodes, and then click on the top left check mark here, which should select everything, and then click on install. Sometimes you won't need to install, sometimes you just need to update, so you can just go back here and then update all the custom nodes and then restart. But every time you install something, you update, whatever you do, make sure that you restart. Now, something very important, every time you save a workflow or work on a workflow, it'll be here in your workflows folder, this bottom left folder here. And you can see all my past workflows, and I could open them up easily. But even more important, and a really neat addition here, is if you go to workflow and you click on browse templates, we get back to these custom templates, and these things are amazing because it basically does all the work for you. So if you were looking to mess with Flux, you click on Flux, and you have all these options for Flux Dev, Basic, Flux Context Dev, Flux Dev, Flux Schnell, and all the Flux you can want. Now, if you go to image here, you have the brand new Qwen image, which is arguably the best AI art generator right now that really understands context better than any other model right now. If you look at all these different words on the signs, it actually was able to understand all these different signs and put them all in the same image. You can install Omni Gen 2, HeyDream, everything. HeyDream is really good as well. Then there's SD 3.5. Then we even have video here with all the different WAN models. So WAN pretty much dominates the video section here. Now, most people can't use this 14B, which stands for 14 billion parameters. So most people will have to go to this 2.25B here, which is the 5 billion parameter. But it has things like text to video, there's video to video, video in painting with the vase, and it has some amazing results. And as you can see here, you can try this yourself just by clicking on one of these, and then they'll actually pull up all the models that you need and download it for you. Well, you have to click on these actually. So I'll click on that. I'll click on this, and that, and it basically downloads everything and puts it into the correct folders. So you don't have to go to HuggingFace anymore and find these files, or to whatever site and put them into the correct folder. It does it for you, And this is for all the workflows that ComfyUI offers. And there's a lot of workflows and they're very quick to release. Like when Qwen came out like a day or two later, they had the Qwen workflow with the models available for download right away. Now, the exception would be with the GGUFs and the quantized models, which we'll talk about in a second. Those won't be on these sites. You'll actually have to go to a HuggingFace site and find the models and figure out which folders that they go into. But look how simple that is. It's downloading everything for me just like that. Once this is done, I could use the model. Easy as that. This is an amazing quality of life, and this wasn't here before. Before, you were looking at a blank canvas and then you had to go somewhere to find a workflow and then find the model. And now it's just all there for you. You click on the workflow, you click on the things to download, it puts it in the right place. That's amazing. AI art couldn't be simpler. So ComfyUI is now great for beginners as well as people who want to do some really complicated stuff. Once all the models are downloaded, you can just click on the X to start using the workflow. But sometimes the models fail when downloading. So just go ahead and click on the red X and cancel the download if it's stuck and then just re-download it again. So I'm going to click on X to start the workflow. And we have the Qwen workflow here. Now, the cool thing about all of the workflows that ComfyUI gives you is there's a lot of information here in the notes here on the side. Even has a link to where it got all the models and which folders they go into. It's already done it for you, but it has the information here for you, and it has a tutorial as well. And sometimes the notes will have links to the quantized models. So in standard AI fashion, ComfyUI made a bunch of updates while I was filming this. And the next day I logged in and it looked completely different. And so to get to browse templates, you can do that up here again, but it looks like a icon of a C now. When you click that, there's browse templates and you can see all the different templates again. But something that they added down here is a templates icon. So you can get there a lot easier and just with this shortcut. So you no longer have to go up here. And also there's no more help menu as well. So you'll actually have to click on the C icon to go to the help menu to find the updates. And by the way, just while we're in here, you could actually change this to a light theme or a dark theme, depending on your preference. And then if you go into settings, you could actually change the way ComfyUI looks a little bit. So if you go to line graph, check this out. You can actually change the splines into straight lines. So if you prefer that, you put straight lines. And as you can see, the lines going to the nodes look a little bit different here. So it's a straight line instead of the curvy lines. I'm just going to stick to the regular spline right now so I don't confuse anyone. And if you look at here, you see where it says appearance, you can go into appearance, then change the canvas background. So let's try something different. And I put a background image in there and let's see what it looks like. Pretty cool, right? So now if you wanted to, you can have that background image while you edit to have a customized ComfyUI. And let's play with some of the other settings. So I'm going to change the text area for the node widgets to 12 so I can see it better. Maybe 11, maybe 12 is too big. And then you could have a smaller sidebar if you wanted to, just like that, so you can see more of the canvas. And you can change the sidebar location to the right if you wanted to. I'm going to keep mine on the left. And if you wanted to do kind of like a mix match of light and dark theme, you can actually change it here for the color palette. So there's light, there's Solarize, which has the greenish nodes, and then there's Arc, there's Nord, which is just kind of bluish. There's GitHub, which it just kind of looks like the GitHub page, which is almost like the standard theme. There's Obsidian, there's Obsidian Dark, looks the same. And there's Milk White. So you can make your ComfyUI look very different, except sometimes you have some quirks. Like over here, the text is still white. So that's very hard to read. You actually have to hover over it to see it. But for the most part, customizing works pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and set some of the colors back to default since this is not cool because I can't see some of the text. So I changed it back to the default, but I'm going to keep the girl in the background. I'm just going to show you something real quick. It's pretty annoying to have to open different workflows constantly and try and find them. So if you look at your workflows, you'll see all your previous workflows that you used, and you could search in here to find them. And if you open up a couple, you'll see at the top here, there'll be a tab so you could just jump back and forth. So if you want all the Qwen functions, Qwen text to image, image to image, or Qwen edit, and you want that to all be here so you can just click around and work on different workflows, you can do that as well. Because I know that's one of the complaints, that when you had automatic 1111, you could just jump around to upscale and do other things quickly. But you can actually do that here by keeping these tabs here, and you could right click on any tab like this one, and then you can add it to your bookmarks. So I'm going to right click on this one, add it to my bookmark, and it'll be up here until I close it. All right, so let's go back to the basics and click on the templates icon, which is now located right here. So click on that, and you got all these wonderful templates. So we're going to click on basic or basics, and you have image generation, you got image to image. So image generation is just text to image. Image to image is you give it an image of yours and tell it to create something based on the image you gave it, but it's basically trying to recreate the image that you have instead of like something like contextual generation where you're asking it to edit it a certain way. So if you put in a regular cat, you can ask for a cartoon cat or something like that. Then you got LoRa's, which is a way you can actually put a certain style on an image. Like if you want miniature photography or anime. Really popular one is the GTA art style. There's also a lot of LoRa's that can lessen the time for image generation, so it's also popular for that. Like the Qwen model has an 8-step LoRa, so you could generate something in 8 steps without losing too much quality. And then you could have multiple LoRa's if you want to combine cyberpunk with steampunk or something, or nanopunk. All the different punks, you can do that. Then there's inpainting. Inpainting is when you put something in the picture that wasn't there previously or change something. So if you see at the bottom right, there's a teacup, and then you could say change it into tomatoes or whatever that is. Then there's outpainting if you want a picture to be a bigger ratio. So you see here, it's pretty zoomed in, and you can ask the AI to create more of the image to put it in the rose garden instead of a single rose in this example. Then there's embeddings. Embeddings are pretty much like LoRa's, just a different way of doing it. Then you got these Gliden text box generations, grounded language to image generation framework. And so I haven't tried this one specifically, but normally you can specify where the AI prompts in a specific location or in a particular box. But definitely try it. I've never tried it. I've seen some examples in the past of other tools that do something similar. So let's do image generation. And so here we got the regular SD 1.5. Now this will generate on anyone's computer. You can have 4 gigabytes of VRAM, and this would probably generate on your computer. It's also pretty fast download at 199 gigabytes. So just click on it and it should download everything you need and put it in the correct folder, which for Stable Diffusion 1.5, that is your checkpoints folder. All right, so the checkpoint is download and we're ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the X here to close this dialog box since it's all done. And you can see the workflow in the background. And so I don't confuse anyone, I'm going to go ahead and go back into settings and just clear the background so my background looks like your background. And this is what you should be looking at right now. And by the way, if you click on the canvas, you can grab it and drag it around. Same thing with the nodes here. You can move it just like that. And you see how this run panel is in the way? You could grab it here where the dots are and move it to somewhere a little bit more convenient. Now, I don't want this to show at the bottom anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and click on clear. Now I got more room to work with. By the way, this is the most basic workflow that you can use, and it's also the most compatible with different video cards. And so if you have 6 gigabytes of VRAM or even less, you might be able to use this. So here's a chart created with ChatGPT with the average generation time for Stable Diffusion 1.5 on several video cards, with the RTX 4090 and 24 gigabytes of VRAM being the fastest at 2.5 seconds. There are certain models that will actually make these generations instant if you have a 4090. Mine is the RTX 4070. It says 5 seconds, which is pretty accurate. I think I shaved off 2 seconds by optimizing it, but it's pretty accurate at 5 seconds. Then you got the 1660s, which would be comparable to the 1070s and 1080s, which would take about 20 seconds to create an image. That's at the lowest end of the spectrum. So you can still create some awesome art with a 2060 with 6 gigabytes of VRAM. My recommendation is to use a custom model for SD 1.5. The generic vanilla version 1.5 isn't that great, but the custom models are really good actually. We'll go over that later in the video to show you the kind of quality that SD 1.5 custom models create, which they're pretty good. Let's take a look at a basic workflow, then go into something a little bit more complex. But before going into the workflow, let's look at navigation. So you can move the canvas around by left clicking, and then it'll grab the canvas and you can move it around. Same with the nodes, you can move it around. And moving the nodes around is very important to see where things connect. It really helps you kind of see where the nodes are actually going. Another thing you can do is go in here to the C icon at the top, go into settings, and you could change the light graph settings over here to be, instead of a spline, you can make it straight, just like that. And then you would have a different type of straight line here if you prefer it. I'm just going to change it back so nobody gets confused when they see different lines here. Another thing you could do is scroll up and it'll zoom all the way in, and this will help you focus on a particular node, and you could scroll down and zoom all the way out so you can find where you are. Something very important to know is when you hover over some of these like CFG, it'll give you the definition of it. Classifier, free guidance scale. It balances creativity and adherence to the prompt. So higher values will result in images more closely matching the prompt. However, too high will negatively impact the quality. And that's because there's going to be less creative freedom for the AI, and it's just going to really try to stick to your prompt. Different types of models will require different types of CFG, as well as if it's a lightning LoRA or there's something in between. If you're doing like something that's 8 to 4 steps, your CFG is probably going to be around 1 or 2, but that's really up to the model or the different type of LoRA that you're using. Scrolling back out, if you look here at the bottom, you can see this toggle bottom panel. When you click on that, it'll show you things that are happening in the background. So this is like your terminal. When you have the portable version, you have a terminal that's always open, and that will show you all the things that are happening in your ComfyUI. And then here is keyboard shortcuts if you want to have some shortcuts that are very useful. That Q prompt is R, that stands for run. So if you wanted to run something without trying to find this button right here, you could just press R. And you could also drag this run button around if you wanted to. Then you could press up on the batch count to run more than one model, and this won't crash your computer. This is actually just running things iteratively. So after it runs one, it'll run the next one. So if you wanted 4 of the same picture, you could run it 4 times. Now if you change the batch size down here, that's a different story. That's actually going to create more than one during that same generation. So if you combine these two, if I put a batch of 4 and 2, this is going to create 8. But I recommend for most models aside from this one, I would just create 1. But for Stable Diffusion 1.5, go ahead and create 4 or more. Well, for Flux, I would keep it to 1. But the run, you can make it whatever you want as long as you're willing to wait for it. And once these are done, they'll end up here in the queue. So the top left, there's a queue panel. And it'll show you the amount of seconds it took to generate an image. And something to keep in mind is that the first generation is going to be much longer. So this one doesn't show it, but it'll normally be like 200, 300 seconds just on the first load, and then the rest were 42. And this was all created with Flux Krea. And this created some pretty nice images here. There's some anime, some cute pictures like this. There's a good one like this. And there's some photorealistic stuff in here too. And it does a very good job at that, especially portraits. It does an amazing job at portraits, but it does a really good job at just overall making some pretty nice art. See this one of a princess here next to an ivory castle, and then this princess in the desert. Just overall good quality. Look at this one. There's this castle with some lava coming into it or out of it. It looks pretty amazing. Next is your models folder, and you can see all your models in here and drag things in and out this way, or you can just do it through the normal folder if you want to. Then there's workflows, and so if you edit in workflow, you can go over here to file, and then you could save as, and then it'll end up here. So you'll have a custom workflow in here. So for example, here's one of my custom workflows. Look at that mess. This is a crazy workflow. I didn't create this myself. This was actually something I got from online, and it looks nuts. Now next, let's look at templates, which is this one right here. These 3 blocks stacked together. Click on templates, and this has all the templates that you want and need. These are all the basic templates, so there's no GGUFs in here, but it has all the basic templates to run. So you can try all of these just by clicking on it and then having it download the checkpoint for you, just like that. Just download that and you're good. Then you can start using it without even doing anything. You don't have to load anything, because once you download that, it's going to automatically put it there. Let's take a look at it. You see the steps here. It's neatly written out for you. Step 1, step 2, step 3. So step 1, you put in the model, which should already be in there. Then step 2, you would upload your picture. And step 3, you would put something in the prompt, and then press R or click on run. Now let's take a look at a workflow that's a little bit more involved here. And so now we have, what is this? This is Flux Context. And so what we have here is the load models. So the load models for this is going to be 3 different loads. And so the first one is the model itself, and then the next one is the dill clip loader, and then the last one is the VAE. Now here for this one, you either have a load diffusion model, and these usually go into the diffusion models folder, or you'll have a load checkpoint checkpoint, which is the standard ones, and that'll be like for your SDXL and SD 1.5, that'll be a load checkpoint. So if you double click somewhere on the empty space here, you'll see all the different loads. So load, so there's load checkpoint, and then you would just connect it like you connected this one, except this one's also going to connect to the VAE. And then there's also the UNet loader. So right here, if you type in UNet, you'll see the UNet loader GGUF, and this is how you would load a GGUF, and the folder that this would go into would be your UNet folder, and that's where all these models are in. They're in the UNet folder, and you'll know it's in the wrong folder if you don't see it on the drop down list over here. Like here we have the text encoders, they're all showing up, all the ones that I was looking for in here because it's in a dual clip loader. And then for this model specifically, it has two clips. It has the clip L and it has the T5XX XL. Don't worry about what that means. If you're using ComfyUI with the templates, it'll download it for you. You don't even have to think about this. This was all downloaded and set up for me. The only thing I had to do was type something in the positive prompt, which is this green box, and press enter. Well, actually, I had to upload a picture here too because I asked it to edit her in a specific way. Because of this particular workflow is for contextual generation, so it's editing a picture that you already have or two pictures. So you can either put one picture in here and edit it, or two pictures and then ask this picture to be in that picture, vice versa. We'll go over that a little bit later. Then there's bypassing nodes. If you look at this node right here, it's purple, which means that the workflow actually skips it. Some workflows are built to work this way, so you can have more functionality within a single workflow. And normally the notes here will tell you how to do this, but all you have to do is just click on the bypass workflow and press Control B, and it'll unbypass it. Now you can put a different picture here, so you can combine it with this one. Like for example, you could put a beach ball on the right side, and then you could put something in the prompt like have her play with the beach ball or something like that. But if you want to bypass it again, you could do the Control B thing after clicking on the node, or you can right click on it and then go in here where it says bypass and bypass it. And this is just a convenient way for you to use the workflow without actually recreating it every single time. So you could just unbypass it when you need to use the two pictures, and when you don't need it, just go like that. And then there's the manager, which is one of the most important buttons here at the top right. So if things aren't working, even though they should, you should update all custom nodes, then restart. Restart after you do anything in here. And if you're looking for a particular custom node, you can find it in here. You can click on that, and there's all these different custom nodes available for you. These are all the popular ones on top, and you'll have like your HeyGen video wrapper, then you'll have like ControlNet, Fast Video, Easy Animate. There's a lot of ComfyUI GGUF, but normally you won't have to choose this because if you download a custom workflow, it'll automatically show you what you need to download. Then you'll just go to install custom nodes and then click up here, and then it'll select all the nodes and install it. I'll show you that later in one of the workflows that we use, and we'll add a custom workflow and update it. What we have here is the load checkpoint, and in here we have the stable diffusion model, which is the 1.5, which is one of the really early versions that is widely adopted, and they make a lot of custom models. So even though it's a really old version, you can get some custom models that make some really good art in like 3 to 5 seconds because it's so optimized. But as you can see at the top here, you got your positive prompt, which is the clip encode. Now it doesn't say it on here, but you can see that the string goes into the positive over here on the K sampler. So that means it's the positive prompt, and positive is basically what you're asking for. And so in the default example, it's a beautiful scenery, nature, glass, bottle, landscape. Purple, it's funny that the example that is there by default, it has a typo. But what you can do so you don't get confused, you can actually right click on this, and then you can go to colors, and then you could change this to green. And so that can be like your key indicator that this is a positive prompt. This is what you're asking the AI to do. Now this is the negative prompt down here, and as you can see, it's the string from the conditioning is going to the negative prompt on the case sampler, which is over here. This is the case sampler. Now I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to change the color to red. So green is what I want, and red is what I don't want. So I don't want text, watermarks. They got some default negative prompts that you could find out there. You can ask ChatGPT to give you some, but normally like blurry, malformed, things like that you don't want in your picture. Next we have latent image, and for stable diffusion 1.5, 512 by 512 is the most compatible. You might want to check with ChatGPT before you change anything in here, and you could always upscale your image afterwards or use a different model like SDXL. So everything is neat and color coded. So if you look at the load checkpoint, it goes into the K sampler over here where model is. So the model is being loaded into the K sampler, and then for the positive and the negative prompt, you can see the clip splits into two here from the loader. So it splits into the positive and then negative, and then the only way that the system knows that one's negative and one is positive is by the K sampler. So the green one here goes to the positive, then the red one goes into the negative, saying it's a negative prompt. And then you have the empty latent image going into the latent image, which makes sense. And then you have the VAE that goes into the VAE. If you drag off the node from that specific section, it'll give you the most appropriate node for it. And you could also search the node and find something in here to load in, but that's a little bit more advanced. But you see here is the VA decode, and that's basically the workflow. The last one is save image, and that's where your image goes, but it's not technically part of the workflow. Actually, it is, because if you didn't add it, then there would be no image. Well, let's try this default and see how long it takes. And that was pretty quick. It took like 5 seconds, and this is the bottle, and it looks terrible. I don't know why. Let's take a look at custom models and workflows. So you don't have to settle for just the regular model or workflow. You can have some of these models here that are trained on a specific art style. Like as you can see here, there's a bunch of different models trained by the community that have some awesome results. CivitAi is one of the best sites for custom models, LoRAs, and things like that. And a LoRA is something that will help you get that specific image without using a model. It just is an addition to the model. Shaker AI is also another site which is not as popular as CivitAi, but it focuses on more safer work, and so there's no nudity on this one, but CivitAi will have nudity and gore, and CivitAi will have all the best models. A cool thing about the ComfyUI templates is it shows what folder each model should go into, so it breaks it down pretty well. So you could just kind of copy that, but use the custom models and put them in the correct folders. Of course, GGUFs and quantized models will go into separate folders, not the same ones as these. Now for custom workflows, you can check OpenArt AI. I will have a link to all of these in my description, but this is a really cool site, and this is also a not safe for work. So there's some nudity on this site as well, but they have different workflows. Like here is an upscaler that's very popular. There's turn your photo into clay style. Then there's these Flux upscales that do colorization. They fix photos. And there's one that specifically enhances the skin. Sometimes Flux Dev will give that rubbery kind of shiny skin. So here's an example of one of those workflows here, and you can see here that it shows you the difference between the plastic and the real skin. So here is the plastic skin and there's the real skin, and there's the comparison between the before and after results. And here's another example as well, where you see on the left it's a little bit kind of Flux Devy, where it has that AI art style, and on the right it looks pretty damn real. Now, you don't have to go to some of the more advanced models like Flux to get better results. If you use a custom model for SD 1.5, you can still get those lightning quick results with some better AI art. And there's so many different styles. There's so many custom models out there to check out on CivitAi. So let's run this and check out the results. The first thing you need to do is go to your load checkpoint and click on the drop down box and then select your new model. So I'm using the Dream Shaper 8 right now. And I got a batch size of 10, which means it's going to create 10 images per batch, and in the run you could actually increase it as well. So if I press this up button to 4, this is going to do this 4 times. It's going to run 4 times and create a batch size of 10 each time, which is 40 images. So I don't want 40 images, so let's just do 10. Now everything's in place, so I'm just going to go ahead and click run. Now, by the way, while this is generating real quickly, there's a show image feed at the top here. This will actually show your images in the bottom feed down here, and you could resize it, but I don't like using that in particular. I actually rather just use the Q here and take that away. I found out that after it generates, I actually have to go to another monitor with a different ratio to see the resize feed again. So make sure you don't make it too big. In fact, just go ahead and not show it, and then you can just use this over here, this Q up here in the top left, to look at your pictures. So if you click on the 10 here, you'll see all the different pictures that were just generated, and this is the easier way to look at it. That's not too disruptive on your view. That's what I prefer, and you could just click on Q again to make it go away for a second. But as you can see, the bottles are already infinitely better. Look at that. This is much better than the default vanilla results. Every single bottle is way better, 10 times better. Look at that. Look at this. They all look good. And it's so easy to do. You just have to go to CivitAi or Shaker AI. I'll put both those links in my description, and then head over to models Then at the top here, you'll see models. Click on that. Then you can see the one that I use here, which was Dream Shaper. But if you prefer, you can search things here like Cyberpunk, and you can see that they have a lot of models here. You'll have to filter here on the left side to SD 1.5 or SD 1.5 Hyper LCM. LCM is the 1 second generations or less, almost immediate generations. But for anything other than the regular SD 1.5, pay close attention to the CFG and denoise that they recommend, because it's going to look funny if you don't use it. Because typically they get these results by lowering the steps and playing with the CFG and denoise. So if you don't change those values for the particular model, it's going to get messed up. All right, so let's try this Dream Crafter LCM. And so this is going to be quick, and it's going to have this particular art style here, which is this comic book feel. As you can see, it creates some pretty good results. Now on these particular custom models in LCM, Hyper, or Lightning, you should look at this and read this. So it says here that CFG has to be between 1 and 2, and images can be generated at 6 steps, but more steps will make the image a little bit less dark and more detailed. Didn't say anything about the denoise, so we'll keep it as the default and try it out. So all you have to do is download this. Now you can see there's a download button here, so you can either download it and then cut and paste it into its correct folder, or you can right click on it, then save link as. Now after you click save link as, it should allow you to save it directly to the folder. So it's going to download directly to where you need it to go. So go ahead and navigate to the folder it needs to be, which is going to be in your ComfyUI folder. So this is my ComfyUI desktop folder. Now models is where you're pretty much putting everything, and checkpoints is going to be for Stable Diffusion 1.5 and pretty much any Stable Diffusion. So go ahead and save it in here, and it should download directly into that folder. Now the other method is just to download it directly, then go into your downloads folder and then right click on it and select cut so we can move the file. Then go into the location where your ComfyUI desktop is. So here's my ComfyUI desktop, models folder, and then checkpoints folder, and then right click in there somewhere in a blank spot and then paste it. And you can see here Dreamcrafter LCM version 10 is in there. All right, so we have a custom model now in the correct folder. Now, every time you add a new model or do anything that updates your ComfyUI, you're going to have to go into Manager and restart it. All right, so now it's restarted. And if I didn't restart, you probably wouldn't see Dreamcrafter LCM in here. So now I have it, so I'm going to select it. Now, remember what they said for the settings, that the steps can be about 6. The CFG is between 1 and 2. I'll make it 1.5. And let's try 4 pictures and run it. Now I forgot to change the settings, so I got a lot of pictures, but you can see the art style come through. So it was more like that Marvel Comics art style, which actually came out very nicely for these pictures. And you can see here that it's a little bit cartoony but semi-realistic. But all these images are good, and they're leagues above the SD 1.5 model. And that's how easy it is to improve your AI art by tenfold. Yeah, these are all really great images, and every single one is a pass in my book. These are all very nice images. Now let's take a look at how to get a custom workflow and update it. So on the right here, when you go to Manager at the top right, click on it. There's a workflow gallery here, and there's actually multiple ones. OpenAI Art is the main one, but if you click the drop down, there's different places here, like comfyworkflows.com, but Open Art is the most popular one, so let's click on that. And it'll open up this web page here if you clicked on that specific one. And the cool thing here too is they have a bunch of interesting contents here. They have challenges, they have a ComfyUI Academy. So this is mostly Olivio Sarikis videos, and he's a very good YouTube artist, and his AI art videos are the best tutorials online. So definitely this is the best person to do these videos for ComfyUI. Very easy to understand, and also always coming out with the newest content. But he did this a long time ago, part 1 to 11 of ComfyUI. But let's go grab a custom workflow. Now, if you go to the workflow ones, these are the more basic ones. But if you go to all workflows, then you have the community generated ones. So this one's pretty popular. It's been here forever. The Flux LoRA upscaler. So let's click on that and try to use it. So when you scroll down, you can see the workflow and you can see how it works. And in some websites, you can actually run it. But here, I'm going to download this. So now I have the workflow, and all I have to do now is just drag it into my ComfyUI. So here's my workflow. I'm just going to grab it. I'm going to drop it right in the center of ComfyUI, just like that. And you can see all the different things that I don't have. And now you can just click on install missing nodes right here. And keep a close eye right here because it doesn't make any noise, but you're going to get a restart prompt here. And sometimes you'll have to update more than once. Sometimes this updater might not work and you might have to open manager, then go to install missing nodes to fix it. All right, so now it's telling me to restart. I'm going to restart. But if you look at the nodes here, you'll see some with red around it. And that means that those nodes are missing or don't work. And sometimes it'll be an update, but most of the times you need to install them. Just like this one, I didn't have those particular nodes. Now, as you can see, it's not reconnecting right away. So I'm just going to go ahead and close the ComfyUI and open it back up. As you can see, it didn't install all of them right away. So I'm going to do this a different way. I'm going to go to open manager and you could just click on install right here and it should install everything you need. If it doesn't, I'll do another method. So unfortunately, the installing system needs a little bit more work and it'll just be stuck installing forever. But a good way to know it's done, you click on this little arrow here and you'll see here that it said installing RG3 Comfy completed. Now it's safe to restart and close out. Again, it's asking me to install reroute RG3 for the third time. Irony. So let me click this and verify, and it says that I already have it, so that's a little weird. So this has happened to me multiple times where I get stuck in this endless loop where I have to keep installing it. So the best thing to do is to go into your ComfyUI folder, go into your custom nodes, and just go ahead and delete the one that's giving you a problem. And in my case, it even said it was already installed, which means it was either corrupted or the folder already existed. And that's a problem because for Git and Python, usually if the folder exists, it's not going to install a new folder. So you're going to have to just delete it. And so just go ahead and delete it and then log back in and it should be able to work. Just like you see here, everything has now been installed correctly and all the nodes are updated. What you're looking at here is a quantized model with a LoRA right here. And then it also has some upscalers at the end of it. Now, the best way to find this stuff is to take note of that name, then write down that particular model and then put it in Google search and then type HuggingFace at the end. And you want to go to HuggingFace or CivitAi. You don't want to go to a bunch of random sites. And you can see here, there's both one on HuggingFace and there's both one on CivitAi down here. Now, it's important that you go to these two sites because other sites can be fake and give you some bad stuff. These two are trusted, and the reason why you have to go Google instead of directly through the site is because usually they're like a subfolder, so they're not going to show. You can see here it's a subfolder of the Flux 1 dev. So now that I'm in here, it's a little confusing. Just go ahead and click on files and versions right here. Now we can see the models. So now we're looking for the one that was on our workflow, which was the Flux 1 dev Q40. So where is that? It's right here, Flux 1 dev Q40. And to do that, go ahead and click on the down arrow to download it and put it in the correct folder, or you can right click and save link as and put it in the correct folder. And that will download it directly to the folder. It'll be in the models directory, and since this is a GGUF or a quantized model, it's going to go into the UNet folder. If it was a Flux model, it'll go into the checkpoints folder, but sometimes some models go into the diffusion folder. You sometimes have to verify with the description from the developer. Perhaps the best way to know this is if the template that you downloaded for it or a template that uses it with ComfyUI has load diffusion model as the model loader. That means that it's going to go into the diffusion model folder. Some models aren't full models, like Flux Context is an example of this, and Flux Context would go into the diffusion models folder and not the checkpoints folder. I know, right? And if it was a clip, it's going to go into the text encoders. So things like clip L or the T5XXL FP8 EM43N, whatever scaled safe tensor, that goes into your text encoders or your load clip. So you can see all the models are in place. Just make sure you click the drop down and choose the right one. So the whole point of this workflow particularly is to run something less than 4 gigabytes of VRAM. And how it does that is it creates a really small image here. You can see the empty latent image here at 512 to 208. And the reason why this is better to use this is because it can still take advantage of the dill clip loader and the model's coherency. And it creates a small image so it can fit inside your small VRAM. And then it upscales it later. Now, if the details are as good as a normal model like Qwen, the verdict's still out. It's kind of subjective, but the thing is that you can use it on these lower VRAM cards because of this workflow. And that's why this workflow is so popular and used throughout. Now, I'm not going to go over the details of this workflow, but some simple things to know is that anything that has load is going to have something you're going to have to find. Just use that exact name, Google it, and then look for a file that's on HuggingFace or CivitAi. Don't venture too far into other sites because you might get something you don't want. Here we have the UNet loader, the dual clip loader, and the load LoRA. Those all need something that you have to download. Then you have the preview image. You also have the load VAE here, but normally that's something you should already have if you've ran any of the ComfyUI workflows, especially for Flux. And then we have this next group here, which is completely bypassed. So everything in here is purple, which means it's bypassed. So to activate it, you'll actually have to click in the top here where this little section is to highlight everything, and you'll see this white line around the group now. So here's it without it. And here is when everything's selected. So now right click in a blank space and then select set group nodes to always. And that will enable everything in here. Now you got to find more things to load. And here we have the Flux dev. Actually, it wanted Flux 1 dev, but I'm using the Flux dev FP8. But there's going to be more loading down here. Load. So I'm not going to go over everything, but you're going to have to find anything here that loads. So you'll just have to look for it, Google it, and then look for something on HuggingFace or CivitAi. Then the last one is this image comparison node. So you'll just have to right click and bypass it since it's just a single node. So that's how you use a custom workflow and enable group of nodes. I'm not going to go too in depth because it's going to take a while to get all the different models since I don't already have them. So let's try something more advanced. So we're going to click on templates again. And this time we're going to click on Flux. And so Flux is pretty good. Before we get into generating with Flux, let's take a look at how long it takes to generate something or inference something. So you can see here all the different colors. At the top, there's a key. And Flux Snell is the fastest. Then we got Flux Dev, followed by Flux Krea, which is arguably one of the most realistic models. And finally, you have Flux Context. So you can see the amount of seconds that it takes to generate something, and with a 1070, you're waiting quite a while, but it could do it. I think the sweet spot is somewhere around Flux Chroma and Flux Krea, actually. So Flux Context is good when you're doing photo manipulation or contextual editing. And that's when you're asking the AI to actually change the image in a way that you want it, like you want words in there, or you want somebody to have a hat, or you want the photo to be completely different in a different style without adding a LoRA or changing the model. You just ask it to do it for you. And Flux Context should be able to make that happen without adding any additional things like that. Now, something important I want to point out is that 512 at 20 steps. And this will change significantly. The default is actually 1024. So here's my RTX with a 1024 by 1024 generation. And you can see it shoots up to 35 to 40 seconds, which is going to fluctuate a little bit based on how complicated your prompt is, as well as how many things do you have running in the background, which I have quite a few things. So it's going to add a few seconds. In my case, it added 14 seconds, and the first generation actually took 415 seconds. And so this is something important to know, is that sometimes those first generations actually take quite a while. So it's loading the model and it's a cold start. So this happens for Flux and ControlNet and some other models out there. So sometimes if it takes a long time, keep generating until you get a more consistent time. As you can see here, I got 415, 160, then the rest were all 44, 45, 43. Now starting at the beginning, the description was anime, and then I went into a more different art style, like a computer graphics art style, and then we went into this. Then we started getting more into photorealism, like this one right here. And so Flux does a very good job. So this is Flux Dev, and Flux Dev is already a very, very good model. All right, so let's try Flux, and let's go with Flux Dev first, since that's kind of like the standard model. Now you're going to see a workflow like this, and it's going to generate at 1024 by 1024. And if it's taking too long for you, you might lower it to 512. So on my 12 gigabytes of VRAM, a 1024 takes me about 44 seconds, with the first generation taking much, much longer to load the models. But on a 512, it takes about 20 seconds. So it's really up to you to decide if you want to upscale from 512 or generate with 1024. And if you want much faster, you can just generate with Snell, which if you go back to my charts, you can see how fast that goes. Now from here, I'm not going to change anything in the positive prompt, and you might notice that there's no negative prompt here. Flux does not need one. And there's even a note here that tells you that. And so it says Flux Dev and Flux now do not have a negative prompt, and CFG should be set to 1. And when you put CFG to 1, it'll mean that the negative prompt is ignored. You could just run this as is with this to test it in there, but I'm going to go in the positive prompt and write something different. I'm not going to get too complicated. I'm just going to do a one-liner and then click run. Now I've already run this once or twice, so I'm not going to get that initial long run time for the first generation. But that first generation could be anywhere from 5 to 10 times longer. So just keep that in mind. It's not broken. Just go somewhere and come back. If you have too many things running and you max out on VRAM, sometimes it will break and sometimes it won't give you the error. Sometimes you'll just be stuck. And to check that, just go ahead and toggle the bottom panel here and then just look around here to see what's going on. Like here, if this 2.5 seconds per whatever is stuck, then it's probably stuck. All right, so that generated and it took 20 seconds about. Now to check that, you can just go up here to Q and then you can see, oh, it took way more. It took 50 seconds. So 57 seconds. But on average, I've been getting about 40 to 50 seconds. Anywhere within that time range for a 1024, and then for 512 by 512, I've been doing around 15 to 20 seconds. But let's take a look at our picture. And Flux Dev does a very good job, and this is very coherent. Very nice. Very nice. All right, so let's try a different Flux model. Now let's go to Flux Chroma is really nice. Flux Chroma is probably the tier up from Flux Dev, and then Flux Schnell is below Flux Dev, but way faster. Then perhaps the best Flux model is Flux Krea right here. So go ahead and click on Flux Krea to try it out, and it'll automatically upload the workflow in here. And since I have all the models, it didn't ask me to download anything. But definitely check out the notes here. There's a lot of important information. And they normally have some sort of tutorial or training for the model. Let's look at what we're working with here. It's a very simple workflow. We got 3 steps here, and then we got the save image at the end. So we got step 1 here. By the way, these are just groups, and this blue thing doesn't really do anything. It just organizes it better. You can right click and then add a group, and then just name your group whatever and put whatever models you want in there. But the first group here is step 1, and this is loading all the models. So it's loading the diffusion model, it's loading the clip loader, and then it's loading the VAE for you. And then you got your latent image, and then you got your prompt. And this is going to be your positive prompt. There's no negative prompt for Flux. So you just got to tell it what you want, and Flux already knows what not to put. And then the case sampler is here at the end. And this is the basic formula for pretty much any workflow. I mean, there's going to be a lot of other things added to it if there's an upscaler and all different types of tools. But essentially for AI art, AI inferencing, this is what you have. You have a loader, you have a VAE, and sometimes you don't have a clip loader or text encoder like for Stable Diffusion, SDXL, and SD 1.5, but for a lot of the newer models, they all have this loader right here. But basically, you load something, you choose the size through a latent image, and then you have a prompt. This is what you want in your picture. And then you have the case sampler. And the case sampler is how you tweak the quality. And if you have a custom model, you really need to pay attention to the steps or the classifier-free, classifier-free guidance setting is. And so it should usually be set to 1 for Flux. But for other models, sometimes it's a little higher, sometimes it's lower. But that's your basic formula. So I could just click run right now. Let's try that out. And let's see if the first model takes a very long time. I'm also recording right now, and we'll see how much longer it takes than the sequential run. All right, so here are the results from Flux Krea, and Flux Krea is amazing. The skin quality on models are next level. And so this first image was from a 1024 by 1024 latent image, and so is this second one. Both do an amazing job, and Krea has the most realistic skin with all the models, because Flux Dev sometimes is a little bit plasticky. Chroma is a little bit better with CG models as well as anime and cartoons, but it's still very good. And Krea is pretty much, when you want photorealism, Krea is definitely the model you want, as well as the ability for the AI to understand context and put words in there. If you want to put a title, you want to put a sign, Krea can do that very good. We'll do one example after we look at this, but you can see the first generation took 92 seconds, which the first one always has an additional loading time. And then I tested the 512 by 512, and you can see here that the generations are also pretty good, and it was very quick. But they're absolutely not better than the 1024 model when you compare it to this one. Very realistic, very beautiful. So let's test something with words in it. And keep in mind before you change any of this latent image sizes that certain models work better with certain sizes and some don't work with anything that's not a square. So definitely check with ChatGPT before you start changing that. All right, let's run this. First one here, like and subscribe. That's a very good output there and perfect spelling. And 90% of the time, the spelling is on point. And here's the next one. Spelling is good again, I think. Yeah, it's good. And it's a beautiful picture as well. And it even add the little like fairy lights in the back of the image here. So it kind of connects somewhere, showing a power source. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But I very rarely see mistakes. Here there's a mistake. So this is like in subscribe and there's 2 S's, but still a very good image and very easy to correct. And here's another option, which I don't like because she's blocking, and you could probably specify in the prompt that she's not blocking. But as you can see, her skin looks very realistic, and this is what Flux Krea will give you, which is realism and also perfect spelling. And well, not always perfect, but 95% of the time it's perfect. And you can do some pretty long strings of words too, like this one says like and subscribe, artificially intelligent, so that's like almost a full sentence. And I've got it to make longer strings of words as well. It's not as good as Qwen, but it's still pretty good in terms of spelling. But the photorealism and the skin quality of the models are really, really good. And it excels at pretty much everything. You can see the hands are perfect, the skin's perfect. This is what I asked for. It looks very nice. So I think Krea is probably the number 2 model, if not number 1. So it's number 2. Only because Qwen is so crazy in terms of it being able to put so many words onto a screen, and it could create a whole menu sometimes. So Qwen is definitely next level and it's being widely adopted. They're adding so many tools for it, but Krea is pretty damn good.
If you're enjoying this video and want to learn more about AI art and other cool AI tools, be sure to click the like button and consider subscribing. I've got videos on how to create an avatar just like this one, complete with hand movements, lip sync, background music, captions, and even voice cloning or custom avatars. I am using a cloned voice right now. I'll save you some time by saying it's not free, but it does produce some amazing results, so check out that video when you can. I also have a video on BFL Labs Flux Context, which lets you change any image exactly the way you want, using contextual prompting. Basically, you can say, "Hey AI, I want you to change the picture this way." You can also do this in ComfyUI, which I'll show you in a second. But it's very convenient to have an editor ready to go on any PC or laptop with minimal wait time and without the need for powerful hardware. You can also check out Artistly, which is an AI art tool suite platform, which is not cheap, but it's a one-time cost. I'll leave all that in my description for you to check out. If this sounds like a commercial, well, that's because it was on purpose to show you one of the possibilities of this tool. You can say whatever you want, though, and go off the rails. Cappuccino assassino bombanadino. There, I said it.
So let's try one more Flux model, but this one does contextual or semantic editing. So it's going to edit an image the way you tell it to. And so let's click on Flux Context. We went back into templates, we clicked on Flux, and now we're going to click on Flux Context. Again, I already had the models, so it didn't prompt me to download the models. Now you have the ability to just use one picture or combine pictures. And normally you'll be combining pictures. You'll have like shades on the right side and you'll say put the shades on this girl, but let's try it with just the girl at first, or upload a different picture actually. And here's a picture I created with my Black Forest Labs Flux Context tutorial. So it's the paid version of Flux Context, which is not too expensive. It's like 2 to 4 cents a generation. So I'll put that video in the description if you want to watch it, but we're using the free version right now, so let's check out if it's just as good. So everything is loaded for you right now, so you don't really have to touch anything else. We just went to this bottom part here where it says load image, and we uploaded an image that we want to edit. And there's a lot of notes here to guide you and walk you through it if you forget how to do it. But basically we're loading an image and then we're going into this green prompt right here, and we're telling the AI how we want to edit it. So let's just do something simple like change the color of her shirt. So I typed in girl is wearing a red shirt. Let's try it out. Now this one's going to take as long as Flux Dev, if not longer. All right, so the image is done, and of course it's the first one, and I
I was recording while it happened, so you see 702 seconds, but that should be more like 40 seconds. We'll do a couple other tests to verify, but you can see that it did a perfect job. The texts are perfectly on there like it was in the preview image. It says artificially intelligent, her face hasn't changed, her eyes, everything is the same, even every freckle on her face. The only thing it's changed is the color of her shirt. It even kept this weird logo down here that was in the original image, which is just a mistake. Sometimes AI adds imaginary logos, but it is perfect. So it did exactly what I wanted. So let's try several more tests. The next one, I'm going to make her a superhero. All right, so here's the superhero examples, which is not too great because she's still wearing the same exact clothes. So I specified that she's in a superhero costume, and it did a little bit better. Except here it says ALI, not just AI. So I did it again, and we got something perfect. And that's exactly what I was expecting. Maybe a period after AI for AI, or could have been a typo on my part. But I did a few more of her on vacation as a tourist on the beach. You can see here it messed up her shirt for some weird reason. I'm not sure what I did with the settings, but the rest of them came out pretty good. It even gave her shorts. And I like the detail where her foot is actually in the sand here. And I like this one too. It's like she's wearing a t-shirt over a bathing suit. Keep in mind, Flux Kontext doesn't do anything NSFW, so it'll be very hard to get her in a bikini. So if you want to do something like that, you'd have to use OmniGen, which is full on, not safe for work. So careful what you ask for and who's standing behind you when you do it. And here's another one. Now she's wearing some khaki shorts. The shirt's still perfect. This is a really good generation. Now she has a bag. And now she's a tourist in San Francisco. Spelling is still perfect on the shirt, and now she's in a cafe. So I did quite a few generations. Here's one with shades, and here's another one. She's sitting in a doorway, lowering her shades just a little bit. And you can see the hands are perfect. Everything's pretty good. So this is a very good model. Now she's in a red dress, another one in a red dress. And keep in mind, this was the original model. And I actually created this in my Black Forest Labs context tutorial, Flux context tutorial for a paid version. It's actually pretty cheap. It's like 2 to 4 cents, and it's not a subscription. It's a pay-as-you-go model that doesn't expire monthly. I'll put the video on that in the description if you want to check it out, just in case your hardware can't handle Flux context. It's pretty demanding. Now, when you look at the notes here, it says that the FP8 model requires about 20 gigabytes of VRAM. I don't have 20 gigabytes of VRAM, so it's going a lot slower than usual. I'm happy it's not timing out. But this is the lowest model too. This is the FP8 model. The FP16 will take more, and the original takes 32 gigabytes of VRAM. And it also takes a very long time to generate. All of these took at least 70 plus seconds. The first one took 90 seconds. And I've seen it take as long as 500 seconds on the first generation and greater, which is mostly my fault because I had something running in the background. So if you're working with less than 12 gigabytes of VRAM, I wouldn't suggest using this model. But you can see here consistently at 70 seconds, which the average is around 60 to 70 for an RTX 4070. Now let me show you how to use the combined images, because if you just run it and enable it, you're actually going to get just 2 images stitched together like this. So the first thing you have to do is enable the bypass image here. So go ahead and click on the node and press Ctrl B to unbypass it, or you can right click on it and then select bypass again to unbypass it. You know it's good when it's not purple anymore. Now the next very important thing we have to do is connect this node to this K sampler. And to do that, we're going to have to disconnect it from this VAA, the encode here. As you can see, we're going to switch this latent with the one over here. So go ahead and unbypass this one, right click on it and click on bypass, or Control B. I'm going to put the VA decode right on top of here just so I remember correctly. So I'm going to take this latent right here, this latent node, and connect it right here where the existing one is. And it's going to cut off that one and change it to connect here like that. And then I put a custom width and height here. So I put 1920 by 1080. I want it to be a 16 by 9. And if you want to go back, you could just press Control Z or just open up the template again. It'll give you a brand new template that's not messed up. But you can also save this workflow if you want, and it'll be over here in your workflows, which are not the templates. Now we could combine these images, and then you have to specify that these two are combining here. And so let me put some images first and go ahead and generate by clicking run. All right, we have some of our results. And so the first one was shades combined with a picture of Albert Einstein, which gave us this picture right here, which came out pretty good. I mean, it's kind of airbrushed, but you could actually find a workflow to make the skin a little bit more realistic if you want want to save this one. And then over here, this one kind of messed up where it like made 2 pictures, but I combined this hat with this girl and it did it, but it gave me 2 images. So I would have to redo that and try and be clever with the prompt to ensure it doesn't create 2 images. Now this one didn't come out too good. So it's this girl with the heart and this girl, the Norwegian girl that we created in the beginning of the tutorial, but it did this, which is not too impressive. And really it matters what you put in the prompt to get this right. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of guidance here and you'll have to kind of prompt correctly to get both in the same scene. So if you just put them together and said combine image 1 and 2, it's just going to have the images side by side. Even after connecting the custom latent image size, it'll still do that, which is frustrating. But go ahead and experiment it, and from my experimentation, it takes a lot longer to combine 2 images. At least twice as long, although this one took 83 seconds. But essentially, you're trying to describe both scenes and trying to say that it's in the same picture, in the same scene, and just try to combine it with words. You could also use the help of ChatGPT to try and figure out what works best in these prompts. So let's try a commercial-free version, OmniGen 2, which is an Apache 2 license, which means that you could do anything with it. So OmniGen 2, image edit. Okay, I got to download these 2 right here. Now OmniGen 2, you could actually alter the model itself and sell that. You could sell the images. It's completely open source, and you could also generate NSFW content, so nudity, gore, anything, especially when you're trying to like do something like a bathing suit. It might be very restrictive when you're trying the other tools like Qwen, or actually I don't know about Qwen, but I know that Kontext will give you some trouble if you try to do anything like that. It'll actually show up right away on the load checkpoint, so you don't have to restart. You can just start using it. One last thing to mention about Flux is that you can see here that the generations took quite a while, 83 to 154 seconds, which is not ideal and not the amount of time I want to wait for. So if it takes that long for you, or if you just can't generate, you can actually use quantized versions of Context, which we'll go over that later, but you can do that. So you can either divide the time in half or be able to use the model with just kind of a slight hit to performance, or not performance, but quality of the image. The models are downloaded, so let's get started and go into this new workflow for OmniGen 2. Okay, so it looks complicated, but what we have here really is step 1, step 2, which is loading the models in step 1, and step 2 is loading the image. The models are already loaded for us, so let's load the image. And let's go find the positive prompt, which is really the only other thing we need to know about right now. Don't worry about all this other stuff. You could learn that in the future. Right now, you just want to know how to use it. And so to use it, you load the models, you load the image, and then you go right to the positive prompt. And for some reason, the blue one here is the negative prompt instead of red, but whatever. So let's try this out, and I'm just going to use what's already in there with the picture I uploaded and then select run. Alright, so let's take a look at some of the generations I did with OmniGen 2. I noticed OmniGen 2 is good with real life scenarios and not so good with fantasy or anime cartoonish stuff, but I have very limited testing, and it's I'll show you what I ran into. So first of all, we're actually taking this picture here, which was generated in 26 seconds using a 4-step LoRA for Qwen, which has some pretty good results. I mean, look at all these words. We'll look at Qwen in a little bit, but this is a very good result. But I took this picture and I made some adjustments to it to show how OmniGen is different from Context and some of the things it can do. So here's a picture in a bathing suit, and for some reason that's blurry. I don't know why that happened. So OmniGen 2 is less accurate than Context, but it does give some good results. So here's a bathing suit, and here's her in a dress, and I'm basically asking the AI to change it every time. And it's taking about 100 seconds, 108 seconds to do it on my 4070 with 12 gigabytes of VRAM. And then here's her with a short shirt, and she's now muscular and has some abs, and she's in a restaurant instead of a cafe now. And here's her in some sexy clothing, and you can't do that on Context. It wouldn't let you do that. So if you're going for something more like this and you keep getting errors, then you can check OmniGen. This includes anything gory, like when you get into zombies, and like skin starts falling off, you start describing blood. Context is probably not going to generate it, especially if you get too gory. So you can use OmniGen for that. All right, so let's take a look at Qwen that made all these beautiful models here in a short amount of time. Now, the standard model takes about like 4 minutes or 200 seconds. As you can see down here, well, actually that was the first one, then it went to 61. We'll go over all the different scenarios and I'll lay it out for you. But Qwen is absolutely hands down the best, and it also has an editing feature like the one that I use here for OmniGen and Context, so it does have a contextual editor. Just like these. Qwen is simply amazing. The two best models in my opinion right now are Qwen and Krea, and they're kind of on the same level, and Qwen takes a little longer to generate, but it's more coherent when it comes to putting multiple texts on a scene and understanding your scene and putting it together. I mean, look at all this. Fresh brewed coffee, artesian pastries, espresso, cappuccino, latte. It did everything. It even got some decent prices here, like $4 for a cappuccino sounds about right, open late. And Qwen is just amazing. Like, it's better than I expect. So you can make an entire flyer or even a wedding invitation with a single go. It's all right, pretty amazing. To use the Qwen model, so let's go ahead and go into image and then click on the first one here, the Qwen image, text to image. Let's go ahead and click on that to open it. All right, so this is the standard Qwen workflow here, and you can see here at the bottom left, the first picture took 322 seconds, and that's normally because the first picture takes a while to load the models. But then you can see the next picture took 175 seconds, and you can see here that it has text everywhere, which is pretty amazing. Now, it's not perfect, but then you could actually work with this until it's perfect. But typically, you can get an image here if you create multiple ones that has perfect words. So 175 seconds, a little over 2 minutes there, but now I use the lightning LoRA, which to use the lightning LoRA, you'll click on this purple node here, and then you press Control B to unbypass it, or you could right click on it and bypass it, and that's how you use it. And then you'll see down here there's a recommendation of what your steps and what your CFG should be, which I put here 8 steps and 1 CFG as it's recommended down here, and that produced results of 45 seconds, which is really fast for Qwen on a 4070. Now, I personally wouldn't use a GGUF or a quantized model. 40 seconds is decent enough, and the results actually came out better than the regular model with the 8-step LoRA. I mean, the words are a lot more cleaner and they're all spelled correctly, except for this one right here, but you could tell that this one has a little bit more of a mist to it or a cinematic flair. But you could probably just add that in the prompt if that's really what you wanted. But this does a pretty good job here. But let's try it with the GGUF. And to do that, you'll right click on this and bypass it. And we don't need this load diffusion model anymore because the Qwen models are loaded through the UNet. And that's the folder that you would put that model in. And the load clip and the VAE, special VAE for those particular quantized or distilled models will go into the appropriate folders, which these are located in. And if you don't know what that is, just go over here to the left side. There's notes on where all the proper folders are. So we need a UNet node. So let's double click on a blank space here and type in UNet. So let's just get the basic UNet loader and drop it in here. And just grab the model here and then reconnect it to where the lightning model is, where it's going to continue onto the workflow. And then choose here the distilled model Q4 KM. So this is the medium Q4. Again, Q2 is the fastest. Q8 is the most closest to full precision, which is going to be the slowest. And I lowered the image size to. So let's try out without the lightning LoRA and just the GGUF here. Now this is not going to make my video card a lot faster because it has enough VRAM to complete this. But if you have like an 8GB VRAM, it's going to make a world of difference because 8GB is pushing it. If you could even run it normally on Qwen. And then if you see here on a 4090D with 24GB of VRAM, this is the normal expected generation times. And the usage here, 86% usage on the VRAM. So remember, the first generation time takes slightly longer to load the model. So let's look at the second generation time here, 71, 34, 36. So for 4090 is taking that long, although a 4090D is the Chinese model. But if it's taking that long to generate something, imagine with 8GB of VRAM. But you can see here, this is what 12GB looks like. 322 on the first generation, 175 on the next one, and 45 with the lightning LoRA. Now we're trying it with the GGUF or the quantized model. Excuse me, distilled model.
Let's take a little break from ComfyUI and go on a little side quest. Please click the thumbs up and like the video to help the channel grow. It's super helpful for the algorithm and I would appreciate it so much. So, you're probably wondering who this person is. Well, it's an avatar from HeyGen, which is not a free app, but it's pretty remarkable. I got a video on it in the description, along with a bunch of videos that will introduce you to what AI art can do for you or your business. I have video tutorials for AI video, AI art, AI contextual or semantic editing with BFL Labs and Nano Banana, which we now discovered is Gemini 2.5, soundless video to audio, unlimited video generation with Midjourney, complete AI tool suites like Artistly, and free AI upscalers to increase the resolution of your videos, deepfake, and voice cloning with paid, and free open source models like DIA and Open Audio. I even just got Topaz Labs AI video upscaler that has so many updates since it was released. I plan to do a video on that shortly. Since I'm having some fun playing with this tool, I will let my custom avatar explain quantization and GGUFs.
This part might be long-winded, so if you don't care about the why or hows, then skip to the next chapter. If you working with under 12 gigabytes of VRAM, you will most likely need a GGUF of quantized model. This essentially like compression of the model, so your VRAM can swallow it whole without choking, which is an accurate description of what happens to your GPU before getting an OOM error. A lot of these newer models require 24 to 60 gigabytes of VRAM when they are newly released, which most GPUs can't handle aside from an A100, which can have 40 to 80 gigabytes of VRAM but are not consumer GPUs. Even the best consumer GPU, the RTX 5090, only has 32 gigabytes of VRAM, and that's a 2,000 to 3,000 video card. So GGUFs and quantization are very important in the early releases of these models. So quantization waters down precision slightly from a full precision FP32 model into FP16, INT8, and INT4. And you guessed it, the smaller it gets, the less VRAM is required and the faster it can go, but with the sacrifice of quality loss. In most cases, it's hard to notice the quality loss, but it gets a bit subjective based on what the user will ask for, since coherency is also lost. So if you ask for too many things in the scene, it may not be as accurate as well. So there is a lot of diff ways you can slice a cake, or in this case, have certain expectations of what quality refers to in an AI image generation, or results may vary based on what you ask for. If I can be permitted to give an analogy, it's like stuffing things into a container that is already full. It will probably warp or break the container and compromise the integrity of the box. Either way, it would be faster to just have a second container. In this analogy, the container is your VRAM cap, and if you surpass it, you will start to see incoherent videos with melting faces and flashing lights or jarred movement. The container breaking is you getting disconnected or receiving an OOM, or out-of-memory error. It will also take longer because the data will be spilling out constantly, and the GPU will bottleneck and constantly slow down, or otherwise hit the wall and crash and give you an OOM. My advice is to ask ChatGPT to make a chart for you based on your video card and the quantized models for that specific model, like Qwen or Wan 2.2. You can even give ChatGPT the HuggingFace site directly to ask info on it. This way you have a bit of direction before fully installing the GGUF. I recommend making charts with ChatGPT to get info about your specific model, but ask ChatGPT to double check the chart if things look a little bit off. It will adjust to its smarter and newer models when you ask to verify. Let's explore how this works in action and learn how to find GGUF models and then put them in the correct folder, which is the UNET folder, and then how to add the UNET loader onto the Comfy workflow so you can access the models.
All right, so that was my avatar that I created with a single picture using HeyGen, and she did mess up some parts and said RAM instead of VRAM and said UNET instead of UNET. But I ran out of free credits. I used to have the limited version, so I could have fixed it easily. And you could kind of tweak it so it sounds a lot more natural and also put stops where she kind of just kept going and there should be a period. I think I'm good there. I'm just going to use the free credits, but if you want to try it out, there's some free credits and I have a video of that in the description. Fun fact, that model was actually created in Artistly AI, and so I used it for that tutorial. Then I brought it over to Black Forest Labs, and so with the Flux Context, and then I brought that over to HeyGen and made an avatar with her and made different models of the same girl. But she's come with me a long way, and so it's kind of cool how all the different tools are combining to create what she is now, so I'm pretty proud of her. Now, to get this GGUF model for Qwen, you head over to HuggingFace, or I'll put this link in my description for this particular image Distill GGUF. And I like this one because it says exactly where it has to go, and usually any Distill or quantized models, GGUFs, will go into the UNet folder. So models UNet, and it shows that right here. Text encoders will go into the models text encoders folder, and then the VAE will go into the VAE folder. Now for this one, since you're already on the page, it says in this repo, you'll just click on files and versions up here. And then you'll have all these different versions up here, Q2 to Q8. And then you got all these different letters at the end here of the Ks. So you'll have Q2K and Q3K, and then you'll have the MS0 and 1. So M stands for medium, which is going to be a little bit more accurate than the S, which stands for small, and then 0 and 1 are kind of like the same thing, but 0 is like the smaller version that's quicker but less accurate, and then 1 is the more accurate version between these two. But the reason why there's a difference between M and S and 0 and 1 is because it's a variant. So it's going to slightly vary between these two right here, the M and the S. You can go ahead and experiment with them, although they're pretty big. They're about like 12 gigabytes each. And then when you find the model you want, Q2 being the fastest, Q8 being the most closest to the original. So I got KM here, so I right clicked on this where the down arrow is, and then I save linked as. Then I went into my ComfyUI folder and then into my models folder and then put it into the appropriate place, which for the model itself will go into the UNet folder. For the VAE, of course, it goes into the VAE folder, and then for the load clip or the text encoder, it will go into the text encoder folder. And if you just clicked on this and just downloaded it and had it go to your default download section, then you would just cut and paste that file into the correct. So just a recap for Qwen, go into templates, go into image, and then look for Qwen, text to image. And here we have the standard workflow. Everything is already loaded nicely for you. You can change the image size if you wanted to, if things are going too slow for you. I would recommend using this Lightning LoRA. It actually does it in 1/4 the time for me, so it's very helpful. I don't even think you need the GGUFs, you just need this Lightning LoRA. They even have a 4-step one that I was using. Don't forget to look at the table down here when you use the LoRA, because it's going to tell you how many steps to use as well as the CFG. But for an 8-step LoRA, it should be obvious that you put 8 steps right here. But if you want to generate something here, you would just put your prompt right there in that green box, which is the positive prompt, and put whatever you don't want in the negative prompt down here, and then click on the run button right here, and you could queue up as many runs as you want. It won't crash the system. It'll do it one by one. You could even multiply it by using this button right here before you click run, and then you can multiply it again by changing the batch size. This will change how many is generated at once. I wouldn't recommend a batch of 2, maybe only for SDXL and SD 1.5, but this one might crash. And if you're using the LoRA here, the 8-step one, you'll actually right click on it, bypass it, go to CFG, change that to 1 as suggested, and then change the steps to 8 as suggested down below, and then type in what you want and click run. And if you're using a GGUF, you'll actually double click anywhere on the blank canvas and then type in UNet, and then select the UNet loader, and then take the UNet loader from the model right here, and then go to the UNet loader's models there and connect it directly to the LoRA, and that should get you running. Now let's look at some of the distilled quantized models. So the Q4 load here, this is just a regular Q4, was 251 seconds, so not much of a benefit. Now we have the second run was 210 seconds, so that's a normal run. And then we have a third run here, which gave us 164 seconds, not bad. And now we have a Q2 load, which is 173 seconds over here. I didn't like the result. It was very washed out. Same with this one here with the Q2. And the normal run was 155 seconds, which is a little over 2 minutes. Then we have an 8-step with it, which is 40 seconds, which is pretty fast, but the results are actually better. Now this one, the results are really nice. And this is the regular Qwen model with an 8-step, but it took 200 seconds to load, which is not
normal. This picture is even better. I really like the color here. And it took 61 seconds with the 8-step. And this one here with the 8-step took 57 seconds. So it seems like Qwen with the regular 8-step is the best way to go, under a minute, and very good quality. Now we have the Q4 here with the 8-step, and load is 29 seconds, unusually fast. Now we have the 8 steps here for 34 seconds. And then we have the Q4 with the 8 steps, 37 seconds for the third run. Pretty good, especially the results. I mean, everything in the background is perfect. Now a 4-step on a 1280 resolution, 26 seconds here. Very quick. Now we have 4 steps, 1280, 25 seconds. Some people just do it this way and then they'll upscale, but you lose some of the coherency. But Qwen is very good. I mean, look at the background, look at Espresso. Everything is written out perfectly. All right, so let's check out another topic here, 3D modeling. So here we have mostly HeyGen, and then we have stable 0, 1, 2, 3. I couldn't get it to download for some reason. So let's just go to the regular HeyGen single picture. The other one that uses multiple pictures is actually better because you have more references of a model or an image. So just click on download for this and wait for it to download. It's about 5 gigs for the regular HeyGen 3D. All right, so the model is downloaded. Let's check this out. And if you download the model from the template directory, it should already be ready for you and loaded in the load model. So you can jump to step 2 and upload an image that you want to turn into a 3D model. And just keep in mind how simple this is. We just clicked on a button. The workflow was there and the model that we needed was already uploaded. Really, we just have to click go. So let's try this picture right here, which is a statue with no arms. I didn't take out the background. I want to see how it removes the background. So don't worry about all the stuff going on in the middle here. All we know is we need to upload an image, and there's not even a prompt here or anything. You just run it. So let's try running it. And that didn't take too long. It took about 60 seconds, so 1 minute. The result is so I would definitely choose the multi-image one and remove the background. This basic workflow doesn't have a background remover, but there's a lot of custom workflows that will enhance this and be able to take out the background for you. But I think it did a decent job with the statue, but it's a little wider than I expected, with this being the original image. Not great, but it does make a 3D object, which is easy to work with. And one thing to keep in mind is that these are dirty models. And so when you try to 3D print it or slice it, it might come out funny. So it's one thing to keep in mind. There's a lot of apps to fix the model. There's remeshing apps on MeshyAI that you can use for free. And there's also some apps on GitHub to simplify the pixels. I forget the name of the app. You could also put this in Blender and play with it to change the width and make it look a little bit more like the original image, but it does do a decent job. Here's another one of a little Pixar ninja style girl, and you can see that it did the back now since I removed the background. I use Photopea, which is a free app to remove the background. You can use the magic remove, or you can use the remove background here. So this is a pretty good model, and it's a 90% solution. You can go into Blender and just clean it up a little bit. And there's some apps like in MeshyAI, they got a free app that will remesh it and also clean it up a little bit. So there are some apps out there that do that. One of the problems I have is that it's a GLB format, and you can't put that into a 3D printer software. So, all right, so now I'm in MeshyAI and I've uploaded it, and you could actually do this remesh for free, but it sometimes has bad results. But the cool thing is when you put it in here for free, you can actually change the format from GLB to STL or some other file that you can work with in a 3D printer slicer. So that's very useful. You see here I'm downloading and I could choose STL, and that's a pretty easy format to work with to edit some more or use in a 3D printer. So pretty cool. And you see here it costs 0 coins. You just have to make an account, and there's even the remesh that you can use for free. So even the free account has some good uses. And now I put into my Bamboo Lab slicer, and of course it's huge, but you can see the model is very good. It's almost perfect. Now you can clean it up in Blender like I said, but it's a pretty good 90% solution. Check it out. So just like that, you can create a model, which would take a very long time if you had to do that normally in Blender. My goodness, I don't even think I could. Now, while making this video, I downloaded so many models that my C drive was overloaded. So I needed to offset them and put the models onto my D drive to make space. So I did a mklink, or a symbolic link, mklink. This is very easy to do. So let me show you how to do it, just in case you run out of space and you want to put your models onto a separate drive that has more space without messing anything up in ComfyUI. So on the left is my C drive and on the right is my D drive. And so I'm making a folder in my D drive called ComfyUI_models. Then on my C drive, I'm going into my ComfyUI models folder, and I'm cutting the models folder and putting it into that new folder I made on the D drive. Just paste it in there, and it's going to take a while because I mean, if you're like me, it's a few hundred gigabytes. And the biggest thing is you want the models folder gone from the left here with the C drive. Then now you can press Windows key and R at the same time, which will bring up your run panel. Then type in CMD, then hold Control and Shift and then press OK or press Enter, and that will open up your command prompt console while asking you if you want to open up as admin. Alternatively, you can just press the Windows key and then type in CMD, and then there should be an option to run as administrator. Now, once you're here, you have to actually put the code in, which is not very difficult. You can actually copy and paste from the address bars. You're going to need both of these addresses, but basically you're doing mklink /j/d, and then you're putting the first link in quotations, and then you're putting the second link in quotations. And that's basically doing a symbolic link between your C drive and your D drive folder, which is the one that you're specifying. You can actually just go to the top of the address bar and click in there and copy the link to do that. Now, once all the files have transferred over, go into your models folder and cut everything inside. And we're gonna take this outside of your models folder and put it into the ComfyUI_models folder, because we didn't need the subfolder for models to make it complicated. So let's flatten it down and take everything out of the models folder, put it into the ComfyUI models folder, then delete the models folder. So just like this, paste it in, and once it's all pasted in, just delete the models folder. You don't want that in there. It gets confusing when you do the make link and models folder is still in there. As well as your C drive on your ComfyUI folder, you do not want the models folder in there or this will not work. So now I'm deleting my models folder. Now I just have the contents of my models folder in the folder I made on my D drive. And that's all we want. And take a look at the left side at my ComfyUI. As you can see, there's no models folder. It's very important because if it's still there, the link won't create because there's already a folder there. Now, if you see here, there's the code right there. I kind of did a mistake though. It should be a /d, not a /j. /j is if it's on the same drive, but it seemed to have worked anyways for some reason, but I wouldn't recommend going with /j. So what you want to put is mklink /j, then go up to the left side here, which is the C drive of your ComfyUI's folder, and then copy that and then paste it in here and then type in models at the end. So you can see here, this is my ComfyUI folder with models. So it's the models directory in here. Then put a space and then quotations again, and then put your new folder, which is the ComfyUI_models folder. It's actually very simple. It's just the two links with mklink /d on front of it. If you're unsure how to do this, just give the links of your files and give it to ChatGPT, and it'll give you the code to put in to your console. But once you do that, you'll have this models folder that looks like a shortcut here, and all your files will go to your D drive now, so you'll have plenty of space into your C drive, which if you look at my C drive, I was actually down to 50 gigabytes. Now I'm up to 207 because it took out all the models, which is awesome because I downloaded even more models. I would have been capped out for sure. Something important, you want to do a remove directory when you delete this models folder so the link is gone. So just go ahead and copy this address here. Then go in your command prompt and then type in rmdir for remove directory. Put a space, quotation, and then paste it in that address that you copied. / or / whatever slash that is, then type in models and close it and then press enter, and it should remove the link, and it will also remove that models folder shortcut. Then you have a clean removal so you can delete this folder. If not, you might have some trouble deleting the folder. All right, so let's take a look at Qwen 2.2 and go over to templates right here and then go to video, and it's all dominated by Qwen. Qwen 2.2, 14 billion model, as well as the first and last frame. So these are all pretty big models, and if you don't have a 4090, 3090, or 5090, I wouldn't touch these. They do have lightning LoRa's to make it go a little bit faster, but good luck with that.
They also got this audio-driven video generation, which this one's really cool. This is kind of like HeyGen on steroids. And so people are singing and you just put in that audio and it's like an unlimited length of video. From what I remember is you can just put in an entire song and it'll sing it. Let me double check on that and see here. Man, look how busy this workflow is. And let me see, where is the seconds? Normally on the image size, wherever that is, it also has the amount of seconds. So maybe it doesn't have any seconds and it just goes off the audio, which is what I've seen on YouTube from other people. I haven't tested it out myself yet, but let's go back to templates, video. Now for the 14 billion models and the 5 billion models, they'll both be 5-second videos. You can increase the number of seconds by increasing the frames, but good luck because you might get a timeout. This fun in paint is really, really cool. And this face control is pretty awesome. So it's a video to video. So you have this girl doing this in the video and then it changes it to this fantasy scene, which is crazy because you could be in your living room just messing around and you could turn it into something like this, which is amazing. I personally like the video to video, this control video. It's probably the most useful, but there's so many cool things here like outpainting, which you can take the zoom in picture and then you could create more of the scene. First and last frame, you could have almost complete control by giving it the first and last frame. So animate from your first image to the last image and be consistent. But I think for most of you, you'd probably start here with the 5 billion model here, the video generation. So go ahead and click on that. Now for me, this is taking a very, very long time, insanely long. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, but it seems like people are saying they can do it in 2 minutes or less, and I don't believe that. I mean, maybe on a 3090, 4090, absolutely. From what I've seen, people are rendering at a very low width and height, and so they're doing a very low resolution, and then they'll come back and upscale it using something like Topaz Labs or Astra, which is a creative upscaler. So to me, that's cheating. That's not actually this video generator doing what it should. And personally, I'm not a fan yet. I think that the generations take too long and it's not as consistent as everybody makes it out to be. It is good for video generation on open source, but it is not worth my time to wait here for this long. Look at that, 1200 seconds. If we do the calculations on that, 1240 divided by 60, you can see that's 20 minutes. It's insane. And that's pretty much the theme here. That's the least time it took to create a video. The rest are even higher in the 22 minutes mark. But my video card isn't strong enough. I mean, if you have a different experience, let me know in the comments if you're able to generate pretty well with a 12 gigabyte video card. Unless you're applying a year from now, then it's probably a lot more optimized from how it is now. This is definitely a model you'll have to go to HuggingFace and look for some sort of quantized model to get some decent times on this. I have to do a little bit more experimentation on Qwen 2.2 before I talk more about it and make a video. But let's take a look at the results. And so the first one was weird. It took 130 seconds, but it gave me this crazy kind of like chaotic video here. It seems like that's how long it should take. So I don't know if there's something wrong with my system. And this next one took 2,300 seconds, which is insane. It's like 30 minutes or 40 minutes. And it wasn't that great. The guy doesn't look like the guy in the photo at all. For context, the guy kind of looks like this. His face is cut off here, but you can tell he's a lot more chubbier in the chin. And so here's this one right here, and it just goes crazy. And imagine waiting 20 minutes to get that generation. This one just failed. So not too good for me. And then so this next one, this one's okay. No, it's not actually. Spider-Man looks terrible, and I'm not getting good results here. This one is decent, but this is something I could definitely get on Midjourney. And of course, Midjourney is not free, but really, my time's not free either. So I'm not waiting 20 minutes for each of these videos to come out subpar, and I'm sure I can get some better results with more testing. This one's okay, but then her face starts to melt, and she looks very cartoonish. Not great. Now let's take a look at this one. That's okay. That one turned out decent, but given that it's a 5-second video, I'm not really a fan. This one took 7,988 seconds, and I think this is when I walked away from the computer and it went to sleep or something. But that's like over an hour. It's crazy. It's a decent result, but nothing I couldn't get from Midjourney in like 30 seconds. So, I mean, Midjourney's $60 a month for the unlimited version, but you know, I got $60 a month. What I don't have is 2 hours a day to sit down and try and get a good video from Qwen. And definitely gonna have to experiment with quantized models and other models than the default here, because that is way too long. Keep in mind that I didn't change anything, so this is just the vanilla default settings, and you should get this too if you have a 12GB VRAM card. Now I will say, if you optimize, you'll get some better results, because once you start maxing out, the AI does some funny things when it's almost out of memory. It tries to compensate and it ends up doing some weird things, like you see in my video where the coherency is completely lost. And I think that's what's happening here. And I think that if you had a 3090, 4090, you would get much better results, which is, I have seen a lot better results. And there's a lot of examples out there of some pretty nice results in some decent time. But you can't be anywhere near the threshold of the VRAM required. You have to be in 24. Maybe the 16GB 4080 might work. But 12GB on a normal model, not a GGUF, is definitely struggling. And that's probably why the videos are coming out so jacked up. So I was kind of in disbelief about how long the generation times are. So I made a chart with ChatGPT just to verify it should take this long on the standard models. And keep in mind, these are the standard models, GGUFs. If you experiment with them, they'll probably go a lot faster. I'm hearing around the 2 to 3 minute range, but I haven't seen it myself. And people are saying they could do it on 8GB of RAM, but I'll believe it when I see it on a 12GB RAM. In regards to Qwen 2.2, I totally believe I can get it to those numbers actually, but that's going to be for another video because there's just too many details involved, and this video is already way too long, and I think that's something for a dedicated video. Hopefully it gets faster, because even 3 minutes or 5 minutes, I'm not waiting for that. Anything that takes longer than 1 to 2 minutes, I'm not down with. I just want to point out that there's an actual ComfyUI YouTube channel that doesn't have many subscribers yet, but they have a lot of videos that are already out, 123 videos. And you can see here, they got an hour video about Nano Banana, and then they have all these different videos, and they're very up to date, and it seems like they're going hard on ComfyUI with the desktop installation and also this YouTube channel. Eventually they'll catch up, but they definitely have a lot of views and content, but their videos are super long. Like this is a 1 hour video, and this one's 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour. So that's kind of like the standard. Their videos are very detailed and thorough, and they're usually live. They usually have more than one person going over ComfyUI, showing the technology, but this is a legit ComfyUI YouTube channel. So I would definitely subscribe to this. And not just that, they have an official docs.comfy.org, and this will have an installation tutorial, a tutorial on just how to use ComfyUI in general. I'll go over some of the built-in nodes like the K sampler, and it'll teach you about like all the different things like CFG and schedulers and how to use a seed, things like that. And they have development if you ever want to go and become like a developer for ComfyUI, if you want to create your custom nodes or whatever you want to develop for it. So let's look at the installation real quick here, and it goes over a lot of the things that I'm going over. It goes over system requirements, it goes over what you would need. In the past, you actually had to install Python, I believe, and you might see some documentation on that floating around. So I don't know if that's like wrong information or if it's old information, but right now I actually tested it. I went on my laptop that doesn't have Python and I installed ComfyUI desktop. I did not need anything, and I didn't have Git though, and it asked me to install Git. So wait, you do need Git, but it'll ask you to install it if you don't have it. The Python, the PyTorch, and the CUDA files, it'll install that all for you, but with one small caveat: if you don't have CUDA installed, you're gonna have trouble down the road when you install things like Flash Attention or Sage Attention, which is something that's commonly used with a lot of these workflows that use certain LoRas that try to make things like Qwen 2.2 bearable, because Qwen 2.2 without a Lightning LoRa is insane. There's Lightning LoRa's that don't require Sage Attention or Flash Attention, but the ones that are currently out there for Qwen 2.2 to make it bearable, to put it in a 3 minute range for a 5-second video, require Sage Attention. So you'll need the CUDA toolset installed for those particular drivers, and so the Sage Attention will be able to install correctly. Now let's take a look at some of the best AI art resources out there. And this is tutorials, this is YouTube creators, as well as paid sites and open source sites. So let's check that out right now. So one of the first most important sites is definitely HuggingFace. And this is where you get all your GGUF models and all the different models that come out for your popular Flux, Flux Dev, Flux Krea, and all that stuff will be here on HuggingFace. For example, here's the Black Forest Labs HuggingFace repository, and you can actually choose
to use one of the models here for free. So you can actually go in here, Flux One dev. You don't need a workflow. You don't need to install it on your computer. You can try it out right here. This is hands down the biggest repository that I know of for AI art models, as well as audio LLMs and LLM models and all sorts of AI open source stuff. And this is where everyone just kind of stores their models, and this is where Git gets a lot of its stuff. Then there's GitHub, which is the biggest open source site for all these different tools to install on your computer. This is also where ComfyUI resides for ComfyUI, Anonymous, ComfyUI, and this also has all the installation instructions, and there's all these different open source tools here that you can check out and install. But if it's too hard to install it through GitHub, you can actually go to Pinokio, and all you have to do is download this onto your PC, and then you could just click on what you want here, and all these tools will be installed onto your PC with one click. I'm talking about voice cloners, Hunyan video, and all these different things like AI art. We have deepfakes, and then you have face poke where you can drag and drop people's face and make them do different expressions. You have the old Forge, which is similar to ComfyUI. You have live portrait. You have RVC audio, which you can actually voice clone something and sing with it. It's pretty amazing. Stable audio, you can create music. There's just endless stuff that you could install once you install Pinokio, and it's a one-click installer. I have a video on that in my description, and you should check that out because there is one little caveat when you're installing it that you don't want to run into. But when it's installed, everything else is easy. Focus is another good one here for AI art, but ComfyUI by far is the best now, especially with the new template system. It's much easier. Next up is CivitAi, and what can I not say about CivitAi? They have the most beautiful custom models, all from the community. They have LoRAs, they have everything that you want here. And you definitely want to use custom models if you're using anything Stable Diffusion 1, 1.5, anything Stable Diffusion. So Stable Diffusion 1.5 has a lot of nice models and SDXL, so you can get some fast generations using those models and getting custom LoRA to make it really nice. But this is definitely the biggest open source community for downloading your custom models, custom LoRAs, custom embeddings. It's a really good site. It is NSFW, so you will run into some not safe for work stuff here unless you make an account and filter it, which I recommend doing because you can just do it with your Google account. Similar to CivitAi is Shaker AI, and this site has more safe for work models, and you would think not with these pictures, but they're safe for work. At least that's what they claim, and that's their claim to fame for this website, that you won't run into any nude models or porno stuff. This is another place to get some good models. Then the best paid AI art tool is hands down Midjourney. I mean, there's might be some kind of argument there that Flux is better, but Midjourney is definitely, in my opinion, the best, and it always just keeps improving. Anytime someone surpasses them, they come back again and become the king of anything. So AI art and AI videos. I have a video on this, and you could actually do unlimited videos here for pretty cheap compared to the competitors. So VO3 is $250 a month, and Midjourney $60 for unlimited, but they're going to be soundless videos, but I got a fix for that as well. Another semi-free site is Leonardo AI, and you see here they have Nano Banana, which is Gemini 2.5, and so it's cool that they have that now. So amazing the stuff they offer, and they're always on top of it because Nano Banana is very new. It's not too expensive. You can actually generate for as low as $12 a month. Now let's take a look at the best 2D to 3D image sites, and these are also text to 3D. And so you can create a usable object in a video game or 3D printing just by using these tools. And so Meshi AI is one of the best out there, and it's pretty cheap. It also has some free tools that'll help you remesh or clean up some of the models you made with ComfyUI if they're low detailed. And there's Hyper 3D AI, better known as Rodin AI. And same thing, you could generate some really nice quality models out of here. And this is probably one of the best sites for doing this that's been around for a while. But I found another site that looks better actually, but then it's a little bit more complex. So this UVO or YVO 3D is pretty amazing. I mean, these results on their gallery are stunning. You look at some of these objects. Let me click on this. This is simply gorgeous. You look at the detail on that. It's pretty amazing what they can do with this tool. Now, it's simply studying some of these models. Look at this backpack. This is the best backpack model that I've ever seen, and it looks like a paid asset, and this is created with their tool. It's actually really crazy to me that this was created with AI. There's so much detail in this bag, even the separate pockets and the little gaps here. It is gorgeous. Now the best deepfakes is Face Fusion, Face Swap, Deepface Lab, and even Unreal Mocap, which you can create deepfakes live and like puppeting an avatar. I mess around with deepfakes because it's a way to cheat consistent characters and force a face on someone, so it's almost like creating a character by using deepfake. But if you have Pinokio installed, you can try all of these with just a single click. Then we have AI avatars, which I'm a big fan of because I could definitely see the use case, especially for some formal business things where people are not too concerned with the fluidity and they're just like, I need the ad and I need it in a human form. And so these are avatars that come to life and you just give it some text and then it'll just talk. HeyGen's pretty cool because there's an unlimited version for not too expensive, under $30, and I have a video on that. But it also has some great voice cloning options. You can actually voice clone with 11 Labs. They have APIs to different voice cloners. Also good is Synthesia, and Qwen 2.2 just came out with a model, so did Hunyan and also Dance. Then Qwen 2.2 has a free version of it, but I'm not too familiar with it yet. But these tools are pretty fun to play with. And then you can make your own custom avatars, so you can put yourself on here and clone your own voice, which is pretty amazing. Then for AI tool suites, I like Artistly, and so I did an entire video on it, and it's pretty good. It has like every AI tool rolled into one tool. You see here all these different options. It's pretty crazy. If you're interested, check out my review, but it's not cheap. It's like $147. So yeah. Other tool suites are Adobe, of course. It has Firefly and it has a lot of the AI built in now. So Adobe has some very professionally made AI functions that are built into the system now. The good thing about Artistly, it's a one-time payment, and when they update, they give you the update for free. With Adobe, you're paying monthly. Then StableDiffusionArt.com is hands down the best tutorial site, and this is how you become a pro. Like every time there's something new, they'll have a complete tutorial here, like Qwen 2.2 first and last image. So you click on that and they'll give you the complete instructions on how to do this, and I really like the way they do it. They're very detailed and it's very streamlined and nice looking. Look at that, perfect. And since I didn't really do a thorough job of Qwen 2.2, you can definitely check it out right here and click on this, and it'll bring you through the entire process step by step, and all the software you'll need, what you'll need to do for GGUFs and everything. So pretty amazing site. I did dedicated videos on 90% of the stuff I mentioned. HeyGen, I got a video on that. Black Forest Labs, contextual generators, as well as CivitAi and Shaker, as well as the best paid art tool, Midjourney, and also image to video unlimited with Midjourney and Nano Banana and Audio. If you're brand new to AI, definitely install Pinokio. There's a lot of different tools on there that you can try out, and it's very easy to use. With Pinokio, you're just reading the description, then clicking on the tool you like, and then it installs for you. So it's pretty cool. All right, so I think I'm done, and that video was pretty long, and I still have like so much to cover, and I only scratched the surface with a lot of these tools. Like Qwen is so much more capable, and Qwen 2.2 needs a lot more optimization, so there's going to be a lot of videos on that, because Qwen could produce 3-minute videos, but it really takes a lot of effort to get that done. Now, do I think it's worth it to wait 3 minutes for a 5-second video, even if you can get it to that point? Nah. But I still think I'll take a crack at it just to show you guys how to use it if you think it's worth the time. Personally, I like to wait for models like that to really optimize themselves, because even 3 minutes is too long for 5-second videos. AI art moves fast, and 2 weeks from now, it's probably going to be much more optimized and cut down by 50% or maybe even 80%. So there's a lot of videos already on how to use GGUFs with lightning models to get it down there. But I think the missing link with a lot of those videos are Sage Attention and Flash Attention, and being able to install it to your computer. And there's just so many variables there, like whether you use the desktop version or the portable version, whether you have a CUDA tool set installed with CUDN and drivers. There's just so many things that can mess it up or mess with your install. But I digress. Hopefully you learned something in this video, and if you enjoyed this video, definitely give me a thumbs up. It helps me out a lot. But either way, I'm just happy you got to the end, and I thank you for watching. So I wish you luck on your AI journey, and take it easy. Bye.
Our love is like a comet, destined for chaos and destruction. In any moment, burning up till there is nothing left. But why do we stay with each other? We don't recognize who we are. How did we get this far? like a star, beautiful and bright in the sky, and falling right down to earth, destroying everything we created. Why again am I so hated? How did we get this far? But if you hold on to me, I'll take you wherever I go. Maybe we're better off alone. Why are we trying to hold on? Maybe we should say our goodbyes now. But by the way, I love you, but this is the last goodbye. Stupid love, here we go again. We've been down this road 1,000 times. Just when I pick up the pieces, you knock it right out of my